enlighten you on something else, yeah. Like, see, when it comes to people, yeah, this is my biggest sort of quarrel. And I don't claim to be a fucking angel, a genius, or nothing. I'm very flawed. I'll always come at people even flaws first, innit? Only because let's knock that out of the way so you know who you're dealing with, sort of thing, innit? Because obviously, you know how people use that shit against you and shit, innit? So fuck it, we just knock that out. But bro, see, when it comes to the paradigm almost that we're in, innit? Like, you can look up and see the sky is blue. You know that a fucking letterbox is red. You know that, you get me? Like, we can see the same things. So why don't we apply that to the intangible, the concepts? Why are our concepts so different when we can apply it back to it being so simple, like the sky being blue? If we have a disagreement, that's another thing. But it's like when people have so much discrepancies around each other, like people have different politics, people have different this and that, and it's so extreme to a point where it almost becomes hatred. It almost becomes animosity, or it becomes that even. Why don't we refer back to, bro, look up, just look up above you. Is the sky blue? Sky, okay, boom. So this is how we need to see it. Why do we struggle with that, would you say, do you think?
Separation is the illusion. As in, like, there is no separate from anything. So we're all the same thing experiencing
And we
itself.
can physically see the same thing, right? There's a fucking plant to your left. You feel me? There's a table to your right. We can see the same shit. So what's...
The only reason we would have a disagreement is because this exists in the real world. You're experiencing it through your thought-created world, and I'm experiencing it through my thought-created world. And they are totally different worlds. They're worlds apart. And you cannot interfere with someone's thought-created world and expect it to go well. Because they've been clinging on and latching onto that.
That's not viable for me, because it's like, I feel like at that point you should be able to distinguish between the two. Because you, like, look at it this way. You know, when you get a reality check, you might think you're a bad man and someone will come and show you who's a bad man. Your whoever thought world that you was in is some bullshit.
And it changes.
Yeah,
right?
bro.
So that's where we have disagreement. Like, let's say the truth of the matter is the plant is on my left.
Right.
Your thought created world is, why the fuck can't he see that the plant's on his left? Mine might be, do you know what? My left hand side is a bit traumatic for me, because there was a car that hit me on my left a long time ago. So anything that's on that side, I'm trying not to look at it. And I'm trying not to register it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I come up against this in coaching all the time. The real world is showing us something that the people, me included, you included, it always happens to all of us. The real world showing us something that we don't quite get it yet. We don't know it the same way with a capital K. We don't know that. We know that the sun is hot with a capital K, right? But this real world stuff and thought created world stuff, they look so different. Like, okay, if I put a book on the table between us, right? You look at the book, think, oh yeah, you know, I could read more. I look at the book and think, what the fuck is that going to teach me? Two different thought created worlds.
That's more like individualistic though. More so the things that affect all of us. Like, nothing should be able to stop me from being like, yo, bro, you're right. Because we can look at each other, and it can turn into something. That's why I'm also practice that. Yo, bro, you good? Yeah, love. I'm also practice that, because I know that the way you take that thought on how you are, it could turn into some kind of issue.
Have you ever had a disagreement with someone? You said, hey, how you doing, man? You're right. And they just
on
you.
For sure.
When you say, why can't we have this common ground of peace and like everything's cool?
Just be civilized, bro.
It's because, okay, let's say you put a wild dog in a room with one of my dogs. I got two dogs. They're both domesticated. They're chill. They've got great mentalities. They never bite anyone.
Yeah.
The wild dog's going to be like, are you going to attack me? Because I'm going to fuck you up first.
Yeah, but you know what we have that they don't have? We got critical thinking, bro.
Not all of us do. And that's where look, if we've got that,
everyone's got a mechanism to have it, bro, but it's not being utilized. But sorry, yeah, not to cut you off.
Fear does extraordinary things to people.
100,000,000%.
And if I meet someone, I've had this a lot of times. Like I make it a point when I'm walking to the gym. I park 25 minutes walk from the gym. I walk to the gym and I say good morning to as many people as possible, and I look them in the face.
Right.
Good morning, uncle. You're right. How you doing? Your walking stick, all right? Yeah, cool. Good morning, auntie. Okay. Do you know how many replies I get? If I say 50 times, how many replies do you think I'm gonna get?
-1 or yeah, I feel you though. Yeah, I know that too.
I counted the other day. I got 12 replies, and I said it about 100 something times.
100 million.
So what I'm seeing is fear can do extraordinary things to people, just like love can do extraordinary things to people.
That's a fact.
If I see that someone is really on edge, like they do this with wild animals, they're wild, they're gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
And after 12 months of
I'm
being
glad
loved,
you're bringing up animals, because I'm gonna get into that afterwards. But I'm really glad. Like,
after 12 months of loving on this animal and just showing it, I'm not here to hurt you, they'll let you into their enclosure. They'll be a bit more friendly with you. They'll start treating you differently because your being is speaking to theirs. So when I have altercations with people, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, because it's eventual, I don't need to buy into their fear. Some, like you said, the silence will speak a lot.
Deafening, bro.
And
the loudest thing in the world.
And some
silence.
people are very uncomfortable with silence. I went on a date a while ago and I asked the woman I was seeing, I said, hey, how would you describe your relationship with silence? And she was like, what? Well, the reason I ask the question is because I'm trying to get an understanding of how do you feel about you when you're alone with you.
With yourself.
So when someone's coming at me with that very hostile energy, all I'm hearing is that's how you talk to you. And that's sad for you. It's not going to fuck up my peace, but I'm just going to show you love in whatever way feels appropriate at the time. Why do we have them? Fear. Why don't we have them? Love can solve everything if someone's open to it. Not everyone is.
But you know, one thing that's interesting about fear is used to control you, number one. And number two, we have nothing to fear but fear itself, innit? Like, that's another tattoo.
Even to take it further, just one step,
yeah.
Where can fear actually exist? The only place it can exist, the radio.
That's
the
a
radio's
fact.
on. I'm scared of something.
Once on the radio, it's gonna go upstairs, but never here, though, innit?
Yeah.
It's your brain telling your heart that, oh, you get me, and your heart is like, nah, you know what I mean? But beautiful, man. Now I want to touch on critical thinking. Like what I was saying earlier. We are human beings, right? And I feel like our strongest asset to us as a specimen is our minds, given the way that we're able to utilize it, and for us to be in the position that we are today, living amongst other living things, like animals, for instance, right? Now, the animals, they don't get enough, like I was even saying about children, animals don't get a lot of credit, right? Because animals, they're able to exist. They don't necessarily have critical thinking. They have instincts. But animals are very, very skilled with their instincts. And that can be so informative as far as how they deal with each other. I always give this example, right? I'm like, this is more or less the difference as far as the specimens. If one, like, I don't know, any animal, lion or whatever, is coming one way and another lion is coming the other way, before they meet in the middle, they're probably going to fight. Why? Because their instinct is telling them what? Danger. Oh, who the fuck's that? Yo, you get me? Attacking. Start attacking sort of thing, innit? Now people, let's say you're going through an alleyway, through one end, and another person's coming through the other. The whole time, you lot are walking past each other, even to the point when you pass each other, you're still like, oh shit, like, what's my time? You know what I mean? But you keep it cool, because your critical thinking is going, but it's still not enough to a point to make you do something stupid. You feel me? And I feel like more, it has to be done a whole lot more, but it's like, how do you get people to do it? Well, for one, you got to be open to learn new things. I was a very stubborn guy, bro. Like, I was very, very set in my ways and everything. But now I'm very open at the bare minimum to a conversation. Right now, I'm willing to speak to anyone about insights, about life, about your culture, my culture, what's the differences we have in our societies, bro. I'm with all of that, because the more reference sources that I have, it's gonna give me a more clarified, clear-cut idea or theory about whatever we're discussing. So I don't know, what's your take? A bit long-winded, yeah, but as far as your take on critical thinking and how people should use it more, if you think they need to use it more, would you say?
I'll start by asking you a question. It's going to sound silly.
Cool.
It's going to sound silly, but
go for it.
Roll with me in it. Would you use your iPhone to eat your cereal?
I don't know, it depends what time of day it is.
Let's say you got a bowl of cornflakes, you're going to use your iPhone to scoop it up and put it in your mouth.
Hell no.
It's an inappropriate use of the tool, right?
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to put your iPhone down and pick up a spoon. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I look at the mind. It's a great tool. Yeah.
It's our strongest tool, bro. I mean, your strength. At the bare minimum, you should be looking to make your strengths stronger. Do you feel me?
Well, you know, when you, let's say there's a story of this samurai that hundreds of years ago, and he picks a fight with another samurai, and someone tells him, oh, the samurai that you're gonna fight, he's got the sharpest blade in the world, so make sure yours is sharp. So the swordsman, his blade is like obviously his greatest strength, sharpening the blade, sharpening the blade, sharpening the blade. When he fights the other samurai, his blade gets chopped into pieces because he over sharpened it. He's using the tool too much. That's when it becomes his greatest weakness.
Right.
It's the same for us. If you use your mind, it's for everything. So I like the iPhone example. It's an inappropriate time to use it. And the way I look at the example is when you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When you're holding the mind all the time, everything looks like it can and should be figured out. There's no separation from me and the mind. Just like if you see people on their phones all the time, there's no separation. 100 pickups an hour.
To it, yeah.
Right. If I'm handcuffed to my mind, it means that my greatest strength is becoming my greatest weakness.
Ill.
If I put it down and I can recognize myself separate to it, what I really am, doesn't need shit. Yes, I have instincts too. If I'm walking up...
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're still animals, but...
Exactly.
This is our strength, yeah.
You can feel the danger if there is any present. Just like with the mind, you can calculate, okay, if these 3 guys jump me, who am I going to hit first?
Facts.
It's happened to me a bunch of times. I got jumped by like 10 guys.
God damn.
And
what did you do, bro?
I just got beat down. I just went like this.
No, I'm talking about what did you do to piss off them?
Nothing. I was just walking around late at night. I was drunk and whatever in it.
No, I'm mad.
And I found it quite funny because when I use that example, people are like, yeah, but you could have run. No, yeah, I could have. I was drunk. And I'm not using the mind as a tool, which is a great example of, hey, that would have been a good time for you to be in your senses.
I mean, at that point, if you're wavy, then yeah, I guess the mind thing's out the window.
It's like trying to use your iPhone when you're really drunk.
Facts, yeah.
It's the same thing with if you're trying to drive a car, and you're going to a park. You don't need to drive your car into the park to enjoy it. You would get out of the car and enjoy the park. Then you get back in to go home. Leave the mind alone. Recognize when it's not a good opportunity for you to use it. That will improve your critical thinking because you got distance from it. Same with my iPhone. I use it to create conversations, create impact with people, create money, do my grocery shopping, Amazon, all these things.
Yeah.
But I don't want to use it to hang out with my mum. This is inappropriate use of the tool.
That's a fact.
I don't want to judge anyone's or my use of these tools. It's just let's put some distance between it.
I completely agree. But what I want to touch on is the way you're using your mind. So let's talk utility. When I say you're doing critical thinking, that's cool, but then also there's an application for you to be able to receive information and have it register. I feel like that requires some critical thinking also, because when you read something, it's one thing to read. There's another thing to understand though, what the hell you're reading, which is where this critical thinking would come from. So I feel like information is beautiful, bro. Like, information is so mad. Like, it's so, like, there's some shit out there that's so interesting to me. Like chocolate, for instance, right? I don't really like chocolate, but if you look at the story of chocolate, right? Chocolate comes from cacao, which is a plant that's grown in predominantly West Africa. Now the farmers over there, they obviously would provide these to these old mainstream companies for fucking dirt. They don't even get nothing for it. Forget even the money. They themselves have probably never tried chocolate before in their life, being where they are so impoverished and everything. And where they're taking liberties, bro, going over there, eating half of it, throwing it at the fucking bus driver, moving mad. And it's like, did that ever occur to you that, like, we're just so, like, lucky in our regard? That's what I mean. It's like information. So when you're taking that information in and you're looking at it in a critical way, that will help you learn. So I feel like when I say critical thinking, I'm also talking about don't be opposed to information. Take as much of it in, bro.
I agree to an extent.
All right.
Because it's like, okay, for me, right, critical, I'll tell you something funny about me.
Yeah.
I like these, what do you call it, interviews on YouTube where it will just have a mad title. Crackhead Mike interview. And I'll watch that shit, bro. I'll be glued to it.
Listen, bro, I'm sure you can know by my sense of humor, I love the ignorance, bro. You get me? I love ignorance, bro.
I watched Mike Tyson, hotboxing with Mike Tyson and Keenan from Keenan and Kel. They're arguing about the N-word, right? And they're just the maddest argument. And
I need to see that.
It was amazing.
That
Because Mike Tyson was like really bullish about, I'm using it, I am it, and this and that. Keenan's like, no, let's leave it alone. I'll watch stuff like that.
Keenan, you a sucker, man. Yeah, let me say.
You know, I'll listen to things like that. It is information, but I'm not doing anything with it. I don't want to do anything with it.
But
then there's information that is going to be useful for me that I'm on the lookout for.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't even like chocolate, but that's so interesting.
Here's the thing, right? With me, I've noticed I don't want to know shit, and I want to be beliefless and knowledgeless as much as possible. Because if I don't have beliefs, right, what happens? I'm open. Doesn't mean I don't believe that murdering people is wrong. Doesn't believe that I think doing crack is a good idea. But when I say beliefless, it means without judgment, without prejudice. Because now I'm completely open.
Right.
It's like if my seat here was full of little toys and I'm sitting on them, it's gonna be uncomfortable to sit on. If I got off all the toys and I sit down, I can actually like receive, you know, like, yeah, I'm sitting down here and I'm open, I can enjoy the seat. It's the same thing with my mind. If it's cluttered with lots of stuff going on like underneath before I receive information,
facts, clutter, yeah,
I'm not going to be able to critically use that information. Now, the information you just gave me about Africa and the chocolate, when it comes up in conversation with someone, I'll be like, oh, do you know what? I heard this thing and it'd be really applicable to that. Because my listening is open. I'm not looking at like, chocolate, what the fuck do I need to know that for? Fuck that, no. I can hear it and, okay, cool, I don't need to do anything with it.
You don't,
I can hear
but
it.
yeah, I feel you.
And then the thing about knowledgeless, I don't want to know shit. Doesn't mean I'm not open to new information. It means as soon as I think I know something, knowing is the enemy of learning. Knowing is the enemy of learning. It means as soon as I think, being the operative fucking word here, think, dangerous word in it. I'll tell you about more about later. As soon as I think I know something, oh, I know that. Let's imagine a graph now, yeah? You got what you think, what you know is here. So I know English, the language, right? What you know you don't know is over here. So I know that I don't know Mandarin Chinese. But I could Google it, I could get lessons, I could learn it. Then you got this other category over here, which is where all the learning in the world takes place. It's called what I know, I don't know. What I don't know, I don't know. Now, other languages that exist in Africa, who I don't know the name of yet, they exist in that category. If my listening is open, I can read a book that I've read 1,000 times before and still pick something out of it from this category. That's where I think critical thinking is important. Are you listening from I know this? Are you listening from I know I don't know this? Or are you listening from I don't know what I don't know? Anytime you've spoken to me today, I didn't know shit what you were going to say. I had no idea what it was going to be. And I'm listening with fresh and new fresh and new listening. So I have an opening to receive something powerful from me. And that's what I think, you know, when it comes to critical thinking is where are we listening from? Because all information can be good.
But it's like, it doesn't even matter, just to answer your question. And I say that because you need to reach understanding. Because understanding is so important, bro. It's like, we can have a discussion, we can have a debate, we can argue, but do we understand each other to even get to that point? Because if we didn't, then that has to be established automatic off top before we can go any further.
What's your, it's going to sound funny, what's your understanding of understanding?
Well, I do it a bit like, you know, the 5%ers, as they would say. You have knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is number 1, wisdom is number 2. That equals number 3, which is understanding. So you share knowledge, share wisdom, whatever. That comes together to reach a place of understanding for you do the critical thinking, and now it's in your brain. So now that's knowledge that you can take forward, and then you'll be able to learn easier. Because I always say this to people. We're human beings, right? We have to learn how to do things. We even have to learn how to learn, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I've got my way. Even that whole quote earlier I was talking about Einstein, if you judge a fish about, you know what I mean? everyone learns differently, but you got to have you need to find a way to learn. I'll even go deeper. I feel like your family, your mum, your dad, your brothers and sisters, I feel like the purpose that you have them is for you to learn how to love. So you can go into society knowing how to love. Because a lot of the time, and again, I don't want to sound corny, but it's like kids and when they grow up and that, and they come from an unloved home, usually turn out to be what? Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule, but obviously it can happen to even a child that's been loved. But more so, people that do detrimental things to society, they come from a broken place, bro. We have to learn how to do things. So when you have your critical thinking, yes, read information about Africa, about Asia, whatever, because you're sharpening your mind to be able to receive information, to be able to understand things when people say stuff to you. Because the most negative things can come from a misunderstanding, bro.
That's where that's exactly. I think we've been saying similar things.
Yeah, no,
and
definitely,
that's the overlap for me.
Yeah,
what you just said is the overlap for me.
Yeah.
All the negative things stem from misunderstanding.
100%.
And if the misunderstanding between us starts from I'm on the defense, or I've got something to prove, or who the fuck is this?
So then people they don't know how to receive information, and that's why I say that. You know what I mean?
And I think that's where if you're not open to information, it's because this is a sick saying my mentor taught me.
Right.
Information's only useful as long as you don't take it personally. When people
That's fucking beautiful, bro. That's another tattoo, bro.
You're gonna end up like me in a minute.
That's hard, bro. Nah, that's hard. That's hard. Information's only useful. Say it again. If you don't take it personal.
Yeah.
And that's fucking sick.
He used this context of a business, right? Let's say someone's business is in the toilet. They're in debt. They've got overheads and whatever. They can take that information personally and make it mean something about them. Now it's not useful. Because like guilt is I made a mistake. Yeah, you fucked up with the numbers. Shame is I am the mistake.
That's ill.
And when we take the shame aspect, that's you taking the information personally, personalizing it. Now it's lost all value. But when people have closed listening to new information, it's because there's some personal aspects of them involved. Oh, Sachin just tried to tell me this thing about chocolate. He's probably thinks that I don't know shit, and that's why he thinks he has to teach me. That's how I used to think.
Yeah.
Anytime someone was teaching me something, no, I already know that. Fuck you. You said you were stubborn, bro. I'm just speaking to the fucking choir here. I still have lots of stubbornness. You look at how I'm describing other coaching over there as normal.
Yeah.
Mine is Lamron.
Yeah.
That's an example of my closed listening. I'll say it straight. You know, I lived this life, as in the coaching and all that. I'm very in touch with where I'm closed off. That's when I hear stuff from other people who coach different ways, I'm working on opening my listening so I don't take that shit personally, so I can now apply it, critically thinking about it. Oh, you know what? I'm using that NLP shit.
You feel
Yeah, you know, Sachin, the identity wouldn't like that. But let me drop that. Oh yeah, NLP, fuck me, that could work.
2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. Look and listen twice as much as you speak, you know what I mean?
100%.
100 million. And with me, bro, like this is my main ethos, innit? You can't be a master teacher unless you're a master learner. So the foundation, even when you're a master teacher, is the fact that you was able to master learning. So that always has to happen.
And that's it's really timely that you said that, because the next thing that I want to use my coaching for, that the coaching that I receive, is to be the best student. So I've learned how to build and grow coaching businesses, but I've actually just signed up to learn how to do it again.
And I love that. I love that approach.
I made a significant investment of time and money to do that from scratch. And I said to my coach, treat me like I'm a beginner. I don't want to know shit. Teach me from the beginning, ground up, then I'll apply all the shit that I've learned and mix it all together after. But until then, I'm coming into this school like a beginner. Treat me like a beginner. I don't want you to give me this whole, I know you know this, such a no. I don't know shit. And that mastering the art of being a student is, to me, it's putting my ego on the shelf and saying, yeah, I might have done stuff before, but I don't know it.
Or like what that guy said, if you don't take it personal, that thing, ill.
And that every time now I go to the school and learn stuff, it's an online thing. I'll say to my coach, oh, can I ask you a question? As though I'm a beginner. And I always got beginner level questions for him.
Like a 6-year-old as well.
Exactly, man. And I said to him recently, I was like, hey man, I just signed up, this client just signed up with me. Can I run back through the process with you and look at how could I tweak it differently next time? What could I do to even better make this like a fun process for both of us? What could I do differently? Before it's like, yeah, I got clients. I don't want to roll like that because I'm closed off and I'm fucking up my business and other people's well-being if I'm closed off. I want to be the master of the art of coaching, learning and living.
For sure.
These things are important to me.
We forever students, bro. Forever. And that was beautiful. You just said like fully mad. Now, if I can ask you, just to sort of cap things off, bro, how do you stay motivated, bro? How do you stay wanting to do what you do?
I hate to do it to you again, but I'll go ask you a question.
Oh shit, it's starting to feel like therapy, bro.
Careful now. What did you like doing when you were young? Like young.
Predominantly? Young. How young are we talking?
Let's say like between the ages of 4 and 7.
I really, really love to read, man. I love stories.
Me too.
Love reading, man. Roald Dahl, Enid Blyton,
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
the name is.
yeah.
Obviously, Harry Potter's. Like, I read newspapers. You remember TV listings? There was a little. I read what time.
Radio Times and that.
Yeah, because they had synopses of TV. I read absolutely everything.
Where did you get the motivation to do that from?
Do you know what? It's not even so much motivation. That's what was accessible to me. Like, obviously, I grew up a certain way. Even being at that age, like, we didn't have a lot. But obviously, I was able to go to school. And this is going to sound mad. I used to go to the library all the time, yeah. And I used to take books, right? If I really liked the book, I never returned it. I kept that shit forever. Why? Because like I said, I love nostalgia. I always, there's books I've read 1,000 times. All the Harry Potter, but I probably read them 50 times, you know what I mean? Because I love being like impressed or like, you know, reading stories, and when you get so grasped by it, and when you read some stuff, it's like, I don't know, it's a feeling that I used to have when I used to, you know, but yeah, at that age I was fully into reading, bro, like.
And I'm going to assume that it was curiosity that was leading you.
Yeah, I feel like curiosity intensified the more I read. You know what I mean?
I don't have motivation, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I don't need motivation. I don't, like, look man, I could hit you with some, you know, stuff that sounds good. But I'll be honest with you, it just comes down to something that I learned from Einstein's quotes. He goes, I have no special talents. I'm only passionately curious. Ew. Same thing with me.
Ew.
I've always been curious about people. Why is he doing that? Why are you doing that? Why'd you lie about this? Why am I like that? Why? You said you used to ask a lot of questions when you were young. My question was always why. Every time. Why?
Mine too, probably.
And you know, when I was young, like people were trying to shut me down, talking about all this abuse and all of that stuff. So, you know, I could come up with some clever psychology shit for you and say, yeah, because that happened, now it means like, yeah, it could be. I look at it like, when the internet became a thing, and then YouTube and all that. I started my podcast in 2017, and the one thing on the forefront of my mind was people are wanting to have conversations with me where I can ask them any questions I want. What better excuse is there to start this stuff? Coaching, people are asking, like waiting for me to ask them a question. I don't need motivation to do any of these things. Working out, eating well, walking, you know, all these things, like I don't need motivation to do them. They just kind of make sense. Things that don't make sense to me, why am I smoking? I love ganja. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I love it. Really love it.
One spliff a day, keep the
I was on like a gram a day, 10 grams, I don't give a fuck what it is. Yeah. I'm rolling joint after joint. And it just like, over the last couple of years, I've noticed it stopped serving me. Because I was using it as a trauma crutch. I needed to not feel alone. Ganja helps me not feel alone. I binged on mushrooms at one point.
God damn, yeah, that
and
word.
I enjoyed it. You know, I'm not gonna, and I don't have anything against it. It's just, I know it's not serving me. It doesn't make sense to do it, so I'm not gonna do it. I used to smoke cigarettes, used to drink alcohol, used to be all about clubbing and all this stuff. It never made sense to me, but now I'm coming more, like I was saying, when you get quiet, a lot of things don't make sense. When I get quiet, I get really in touch with the things that are important to me.
That's deep, bro.
My mom, my dad, my dogs, my family, people who I consider family, the work that I'm doing, I don't call it work.
Yeah.
There's another quote, yeah, you might not have heard this one before. The one who has mastered the art of living makes little to no distinction between work and play, labor and leisure, love and religion. To them, they're always doing both, and
you fucked me up with that one.
They'll let others decide.
That one was hard.
I'll start again.
That was hard.
The one who has mastered...
I'll show you something after this. Something I read that's very similar. That comes from like a guru in India. But yeah.
The one who has mastered the art of living makes little to no distinction
between work
and play, labor and leisure,
that's a fact.
Love and religion.
That's a fact.
To them, they're always doing both. But they will let others decide what they're doing. But to them, they're always doing both. And that I only get that feeling, that way of being, that lifestyle from being quiet. I talk a lot. You've been around me. I'm loud.
Facts.
But there's quiet time. And quiet time is when I'm listening to God. That's when it's really speaking to me. And when I say God, it's not a religious thing. Yeah, I love Islam, love Christianity, all the Buddhism, all of this stuff. I'm enjoying it. But when I say God, it's just like there's a quiet place in all of us that's speaking good, holy, loving things.
Facts.
And then when I smoke weed, I'm not always in tune with it. I can be. It's not about the weed. It's about me. So motivation comes from being quiet. And I'm really listening. And that's when everything changes. I don't want to do certain things anymore.
Amazing. Honestly, Sachin, bro, it's been fucking phenomenal chatting to you, bro, innit? And these are the conversations I value, conversations I can take something away from. And I'm glad this shit is being recorded because certain quotes, you get me, rewind a bit and, you know what I mean? And make sure them tattoos are fresh, you get me? But I appreciate you, my brother, man. Thank you for coming through, sharing your insights. And you're a sick guy, bro. You get me? Much love.
Can I have one more minute?
For sure.
I really acknowledge you for the way you're being with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time we met.
Yeah.
But the questions that you're asking, there's this story that I like. There was two people up for election. One of them, there was a journalist who interviewed both of them. Mm-hmm. And everyone asked the journalist, what did you think of the guy? And she was like, oh yeah, like this guy, he made me feel like he was the most interesting person in the world. Mm-hmm. And then we go, what about the other guy? He made me feel like I was the most interesting person in the world. That guy won the election. And I'm getting that same feeling from you. It's
I hear that. You know me, I'm shit with compliments, bro. So you get me?
Try it on. Thanks for noticing.
But that's ill.
That's what I'm getting from you. You know, like it's like, yeah, you have a lot to offer. You could easily be the most interesting person in this conversation. Easily. There's thousands of things that I could have asked you about, and I'm hearing them and I'm curious about them. But you've made a point of highlighting how interesting other people are, where you're taking conversations, the questions you're asking.
I'm here to learn, bro.
And that speaks volumes to me. And I acknowledge that in you because I think it's very important for everyone who's watching this to listen. I wouldn't have come out with these things had you not hold the space and created this for that.
I appreciate that, my
So
brother.
any of the compliments and praise you're going to give me, everyone needs to understand that it's not possible to come out of me if it's not for you. It's co-creation.
That, yeah,
so thank you.
Nah, bro. I ain't shit, bro. Like, you get me? But nah, I fully appreciate that, bro. Honestly. And yeah, bro, much love, man. You get me?